When the All India Football Federation was banned or temporarily suspended by FIFA, many people quickly called for a very swift resolution to the matters, because as they said, it was a matter of national pride that the Indian team would, not only end up getting banned, but would also that India would not be able to host the Under-17 Women's World Cup that is set to take place in India later on this year. However, more so than the fact that India won't be able to host FIFA tournaments, the bigger concern would of course come from the fact that as things stand, the everyday lifestyle of footballers in this nation has been adversely affected, and in no case was this perhaps more evident than in the plight of the Gokulam Kerala women's football team. Hello everyone and welcome back to Sports Today. My name is Shane Rice and today we are going to be looking over the unfortunate situation that befell Gokulam Kerala, the women's football team to be specific here, and why exactly it shows that the sooner India can actually get done with or actually get FIFA to rescind this ban which has been put in place as things stand, the better it will be for Indian football. Now, a quick explainer on this entire situation and is that Gokulam Kerala, remember, they had won the Indian Women's League that was sporadically held because it wasn't really held regularly since the pandemic began. Remember, there was a gross lack of focus on the women's game, and when the Women's League finally did make a comeback, it was about a year almost after the fact that the men's leagues, which remember all of them took place, but they took place behind closed doors. The Women's Football League, well, didn't quite start off immediately. When it did, Gokulam Kerala won it, and that meant that of course they would get the chance to represent India in the AFC Women's Championship. Now, this was supposed to be a great badge of honor, the fact that an Indian club would be going there, and one as well run as what Gokulam Kerala has been. Unfortunately, of course, things didn't quite pan out that way. Now, as you can see, the entire situation kind of unraveled in a few steps. First off, the team had traveled to Tashkent, which is in Uzbekistan, where they would have actually been there. They would have been there to train, and they would have been there to eventually, establish a base before moving on to the city where they would be playing their matches. However, when they landed in Tashkent, they were greeted by the news that the federation, the All India Football Federation, had been handed a temporary ban by FIFA, and that ban would continue until the All India Football Federation could sort out of their affairs. That of course meant the removal of the COA, the writing of a new constitution, and also elections being held as soon as was possible. Now, they only learned about this when they reached the ground, which in itself, tells you that there was very little in terms of information, even for the people who would be directly affected by this entire move. So, Gokulam Kerala's team management did try to ensure that their players stayed updated. The problem with this, of course, was that they didn't really know much of what was happening themselves. So, they just decided that they would send their team out to train. They hire a training ground that they'll make the players train. Yet, despite that, and you'll see why this is a bit of an issue here in this case. The fact of the matter is they're going to have to wait until August 22nd because their match will be held a day later. And as of now, mind you, their matches are still scheduled, but there is no certainty as to whether or not they'll be able to play it because there is so much uncertainty in the federation. And of course, we know for a fact that, if there is this sort of a problem in these sort of circumstances where the federation has been banned or there's a suspension, then it directly affects teams actually being able to play in tournaments that are organized by their continental associations, which of course this is in this case. It's an AFC tournament, so they're going to wait till August 22nd, but as of now they are stranded. They're there, and the worst part is they're not sure whether they'll even be able to play these matches. That is arguably the main clincher in all of this. Again, remember, it's a big shame if you look at it from the perspective of Gokulam Kerala, the club. And again, for a fact that Gokulam Kerala has had a men's team, they've had a women's team for this tournament, because they ended up winning the women's league. They actually chose to prioritize their women's team and give them more importance than the men's team. Now again, this is something that is unheard of, not just in Indian football, but not something that you see happening even in world football. Nowhere has it been a case case where the women's team has been more prioritized, yet Gokulam actually did just that. They said, yeah, you know what, we're going to focus more of our resources on preparing the girls for what is obviously a massive competition. They ensured that, you know, the Gokulam Kerala men's team didn't actually play the Duran Cup, and this is despite the fact that Gokulam have won that tournament twice. They didn't let the men's team play in the Duran Cup because they wanted to focus resources on preparing the women's team for the best way possible. They signed foreign players who, as things stand, will not actually be able to, you know, could potentially not be able to play these matches. And the situation actually ended up being so bad and so desperate for them that the club actually started putting out social media posts, and they wrote, like, you know, open letters to other clubs, tagged them, asking them for some form of support to ensure that, you know, you could help out the girls in any way possible. They went as far as tagging not just the Prime Minister's office, but also the Sports Minister's office. So there's a clear feeling of desperation that has seeped in, because understandably they don't really know what exactly is going to be happening, so they don't know how to proceed with things as of now. So the club made the decision that, look, you know what, we're there in Tashkent, and so we are going to actually go out there and train. So as things stand, these girls are actually training for a match, or training for a series of matches, which, as things stand, there's no guarantee that they'll even be able to play. It is such a horrible situation, and it shows just why, you know, there needs to be a quick resolution to this entire you know, mess that the AIFF currently finds itself in. So as of now, remember, the matches that have been scheduled for Gokulam Kerala, they haven't officially been cancelled yet, but there is a chance that they could be in the coming days. As of now, as of the recording of this particular video, the matches are still on, but we don't know whether the club will be allowed to participate, because again, the AIFF is in a state of flux. The AIFF, in fact, doesn't have control of the AIFF. There is no president. It's being run, the day-to-day affairs are being run by the Committee of Administrators. But of course, elections have been you know, scheduled, so that is the key. Would there be some sort of backdoor talk that happens that, look, we have scheduled elections, so maybe we can let the team play? We don't know anything about that yet. There's been no official confirmation. So as of now, uncertainty is very much the name of the game for these young players. They don't really know what exactly is going to happen. And of course, the main reason any of this is happening is simply due to the fact that the AIFF has reached a point where not only the Supreme Court of India felt that they needed to intervene to ensure that the federation is being properly run, but that move in itself ended up sparking the fact that, you know, AIFF was being run by third-party interference. And because they couldn't meet the deadlines that FIFA and the AFC agreed on with the AIFF, that they ended up getting suspended. So as things stand, you know that, you know, there is a chance that the AIFF mess as it is could very well be actually sorted out soon, because again, elections are set for later on this month. But even those elections were delayed elections that were supposed to happen much before this. Unfortunately, it's reached a point where, well, it's happening late, so all we can say is better late than never. Yet what you can also do is actually, you can't really help but feel for the players of Gokulam Kerala, because again, they did nothing wrong here at all. They in fact did exactly what was asked of them. The Gokulam Kerala women's team won the Indian Women's League. They ended up qualifying for the AFC, Women's Club Championship, which meant that, which meant that they would in fact be representing India on a stage that's as big as that. Again, remember, continental tournaments is not something that, you know, a lot of clubs have played for India, especially so for the women's team. And again, women's football in India is pretty neglected. There's really not much in the way of competitive game time that these players get. They play in the Kerala League, the local domestic league. They play the Women's League, and if you, of course, are able to qualify, you will play the AFC Women's Cup Championship, and that's about it. There's really not that much competitive football, because the two domestic tournaments don't really run for too long a time. They're pretty short tournaments, but at least it's competitive football, and that's what these people would have been playing. They would have been actually playing at the highest level of that, because it's a continental tournament. They should have been in fact playing that tournament, but the circumstances entirely out of their control. They're currently stranded in a foreign nation, training for matches without even knowing whether or not these matches would be happening. And all I can say is that it's a crying shame that things have had to reach this point, and the least that we can do is hope that there's not only a resolution for Gokulam Kerala, and that they somehow either A, get to play those matches on time or get home safely, but B, that the AIFF cleans up the house, gets everything in order as soon as is humanly possible, because Indian football deserves a lot better than this. What do you think of this entire mess? Do you think that things can have been handled better, or what would you suggest can be done to actually ensure that things get put in order soon enough? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap the bell icon so that you know when it is we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook as well. Thank you all once again for joining us. As always, I've been Shane Dias, and I hope to see you all again the next time we're going live or uploading a new video. Thank you all so much. Bye bye for now.